Finish off the wounded, then yourself. That's the new manual for Russian army soldiers. Ukrainian air assault forces servicemen showed how it works. They demonstrated footage shot by a drone. Russian soldiers realize there will be no evacuation, so they resort to the last desperate measure. While the armed forces of Ukraine fight for every life and pull their own out of hotspots, the enemy simply wipes themselves out. Platoon after platoon, say the Ukrainian paratroopers. News from the front can't help but have a demoralizing effect on Russians. But in Moscow, they've come up with a way to fight the spread of this kind of information. Not that they came up with it themselves, of course. They borrowed it from their allies in Iran and North Korea. They decided to simply cut off the internet for Russian citizens. Will this help the Kremlin? Let's figure it out now. The Russian army's doing everything it can to launch its spring-summer offensive. On March 19th, the invaders decided to take Ukrainian positions in the Donetsk region in the Lyman direction. More than 500 infantrymen, dozens of armored vehicles, and over 100 motor vehicles took part in the mechanized assault. As a result, the enemy lost 405 men, with 288 killed in action. 84 motor vehicles, 11 IFVs and APCs, and 3 tanks were destroyed. A Saltsapyak flamethrower system was hit. Analysts from the Institute for the Study of War emphasize that any attempt at an offensive in the Donetsk region will inevitably result in massive losses for Russia.
Exhausted, poorly trained, and overburdened Russian troops on the Sloviansk front will likely further limit their advance in this area. Russian forces have reduced the basic training for personnel involved in ground offensives from 1 month to just 1 week, probably to speed up sending recruits to the front lines to make up for the heavy losses suffered during bloody assaults. From a report by the Institute for the Study of War.
For the 3rd month in a row, the Russian army's been losing more soldiers in the war against Ukraine than it can recruit, according to the Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Alexander Syrskyi. Between 30 and 35,000 soldiers are killed or wounded each month.
This trend started in December and continues to this day. Even though our main intelligence directorate and allied intelligence agencies say that this year the Russians, their military and political leadership, plan to add 409,000 troops to their armed forces. That means they need to supply 35,000 servicemen every month. It's now the 3rd month, and they haven't met this goal.
Ukraine is aiming to inflict maximum losses on the enemy. On March 21st, Ukrainian Defense Forces detected and successfully struck a Buk M1 surface-to-air missile system near the village of Pervoy-Maya in the Bryansk region. Right after that, they destroyed a Buk M2 system near Staropetrovka in the temporarily Russian-occupied territory of Zaporizhia region. They also hit a logistics hub in the temporarily occupied territory of Donetsk region. And all of this happened in just 1 day. Ukraine's long-range defense sanctions are proven just as effective. Kremlin officials admit there are basically no safe places left in Russia. It's no wonder that now Russian air defense is frantically firing at anything it sees in the sky. Recently, according to Moscow Mayor Sobyanin, Ukrainian drones were flying toward the Russian capital, and air defense tried to shoot them down. They aimed at the drones but ended up hitting a regular civilian light aircraft.
The air defense forces mistook the aircraft for a Ukrainian UAV and opened fire on the wrong target. After being hit, the light aircraft lost control and crashed near the Oka River. The 2 people on board were killed, report Russian telegram channels.
The Kremlin has no intention of putting up with this kind of outrage, so they simply ordered the internet to be shut off for Russians. They justified these measures with security concerns and the need to ensure national unity, according to the Russian government. Just like in North Korea, where teenagers are executed for watching South Korean TV shows, or in Iran, where the internet is cut off during brutal crackdowns on protests. According to Reuters, Russian officials have been tasked with finding a way to block large segments of the internet, both mobile and wired, while simultaneously using and controlling online communications. Russians on social media are already calling their country a digital gulag. In the State Duma, there are calls to bring phone booths back to city streets, and on a propaganda TV channel, children sing songs about the dangers of the internet.
Last week, in some areas of central Moscow, St. Petersburg, and other major cities, mobile internet was completely shut off every day. The tightening of internet access restrictions in Russia this year has been accompanied by new laws requiring mobile operators to disconnect any subscriber at the request of the Federal Security Service, and granting the agency the authority to create a network of detention centers under its jurisdiction. From a Reuters report.
According to the Financial Times, in March 2026, 67 federal subjects complained about mobile internet outages, and in 72 regions, they launched whitelists of trusted websites. Analysts explain that all these are preventative measures by the regime in case of possible protests. The Kremlin is simply testing the Iranian scenario.
If the war ends, then of course all these Z-patriots will start criticizing and blaming Putin. And this, generally speaking, is the part of society that, unlike the liberals, won't be coming out to protest with white ribbons. That's right, this is a serious threat to Putin. That's why the internet needs to be tightened up to such an extent that no protest can arise in case any agreements are suddenly signed. But even if no agreements are signed, it's obvious that another part of society will be dissatisfied and will criticize Putin for waging a pointless war. And here too, it's preferable to tighten the screws because Putin's approval rating has fallen.
And this systematic tightening of the screws turned out to be more timely than ever. For the first time in many years, farmers in Russia have taken to the streets in protest. In several regions of the Federation, authorities are sending thousands of cows and bulls to slaughter, explaining it as a response to a disease outbreak. But the farmers say they haven't seen any test results, and the animals that were taken looked healthy. The official position is that they're fighting pasteurellosis, but experts suggest that the real reason might be an outbreak of another disease, which, unlike pasteurellosis, can't be treated. But in that case, the authorities are required to notify the World Organization for Animal Health. And if they do that, exports of meat and dairy products will be severely restricted. Law enforcement is in charge of seizing livestock from farmers, and during their raids, for example in the Novosibirsk region, they jam communications.
And this, once again, shows how Putin and his cronies really feel about their own people. They simply don't care. And he's ready to kill them in any numbers and destroy whatever provides them with a means to survive. And all of this is dragging down his approval rating. And here, yes, now you really should be afraid. Not a protest, no, because if you push people to the edge, it's no longer about rallies or demonstrations. It's about whatever people have at home. Some might have a machine gun buried somewhere, others just a pitchfork.
But there are other scenarios, even darker ones for the Russian dictator. Ruben Johnson, director of research at the Kazimir Pulaski Foundation, believes that the internet shutdown in Russia and censorship on social media may not have been ordered by Putin, but rather the result of his failures. A lack of transparency always leads to a flood of rumors and conspiracy theories. And nothing fuels speculation faster than rumors of a possible palace coup, the analyst says. However, any of these scenarios is a direct consequence of the Kremlin dictator's decision to start a bloody war against Ukraine. Are Russians ready for the consequences of this decision? That question remains open.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.